Hello, everyone, and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets, and drama. So, I'm back for another Have Your Say video.
Please stop immediately.
And this video is for UK versus the World Season 3, Episodes 4 and 5. So today I'll be recapping both episodes, going through the results of the Have Your Say poll where you voted on if you agreed with the outcome of the episodes. And I'll be talking about some unrelated drama to do with Monét X Change calling out a well-known designer who she says scammed her. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start by recapping the episodes. Because we've got 2 episodes to get through, I'm going to try and get through them a lot quicker than I normally do. So I'm going to just do the Have Your Say results straight away and then mix in my own opinions just to try and get through it a little bit quickly. So I'm going to start with episode 4. So we find out the maxi challenge for that week is the girl group challenge, which I do usually quite enjoy. The song is called I'm in Love with an Alien. So it's very kind of, sci-fi futuristic vibes. And they split into 2 different groups. The first group is called the Dolograms, which is Godland, Mariah, Sminty, and Zahira. And then the second group is the Warm Holes, which is a great name, by the way, which is Fontana, Kate, Serena, and Naomi. So the first question in the Have Your Say poll was, which girl group did you think was better overall? I know we haven't seen them yet, but from what you saw. And you voted the Warm Holes came out way on top with 78.9%, and the Dolograms only got 21.1%. And I will agree, we'll get into this in a moment, but I do think that the Warm Holes, such a funny name, I think they just had a better sort of cohesion between them, and it didn't feel like they were all trying to outcompete each other. It just felt a bit more like an actual group. Okay, so I'll go through the individual performances. We'll start with the Dolograms, and I'll go through an order in which they appeared. And the first queen was Mariah Balenciaga. In the Have Your Say poll, you voted 57% for Just Okay, and then 32.2% for Nay. I think I would agree. It wasn't great. It was maybe somewhere in the middle, but towards the Nay side. I think she could have just made it way more interesting than it was. Then we had Sminty drop. You were quite split on this. It was 43.3% for Just Okay and then 40% for Yay, so very split. It was quite hard for me to decide because I think her lyrics were actually quite good and catchy, but I just think the dancing is what let her down, and obviously that had been quite a big thing for her because she was eliminated on her original season on a girl group challenge, and there'd been some drama during the rehearsals because she felt like the other queens were making fun of her and undercutting her confidence and stuff, so that was quite a big thing throughout the episode, and I think it did let her down a bit. Then we had Zahira Zapanta. She got 52.6% for Just Okay, so the majority, and then 33.3% for Yay. I think I would agree because although she was probably one of the better dancers and she was obviously the choreographer and stuff, I think it almost felt like she was outperforming the others a bit, and I don't think her lyrics were as strong. And finally, we had Godland. Now, she got 78.9% for Yay, so by far the most, and then 18.5% for Just Okay, 2.6% for Nay. I think, yeah, definitely I agree. Godland was by far the best. I think she just had so many funny bits. She made the judges laugh, like when she got dragged and she kind of licked the stage. Then they picked her up. It was very much the Godland show and the others. So yeah, definitely, I agree with that. Moving on to the second group, the Warm Holes, and we had Fontana up first. 58.9% in the Have Your Say poll for Just Okay, so the majority, and then around 32% for Yay. Again, I agree. I think her lyrics kind of didn't really speak to me that much. They were very generic, but the performance was fine. Then we had the only Naomi. She got 74.1% for Yay, so pretty much 3/4, and then the rest of the quarter, 24.4% was Just Okay. I agree. I really liked Naomi. I thought her lyrics were fun. I liked that she did singing, but then the rapping when she got dragged was the most interesting bit. She got a bit of German in there, and it very much, I think, just made her performance a bit more interesting and unique. Then penultimately, we had Serena Morena. In the Have Your Say poll, it was 50.4% for Just Okay, but then the next amount was 33.3% for Nay, but then still a decent amount, 16.3% for Yay. I'm again probably would put her Just Okay towards the Nay, just because that cartwheel was terrible. I feel bad for her because she was probably doing it to be a team player, but that cartwheel was bad. I also didn't think her lyrics were that great, but there was just something I thought was slightly off, but I just liked her energy a lot. She seemed like such a lovely person. And finally, we had Kate Butch. Perhaps unsurprisingly, she got 89.3%, which is staggering. That's by far the most in this group. I would agree. I think her lyrics were really fun. She mixed in loads of sci-fi references. She wasn't trying to do so much that I could actually understand everything she was saying. She was kind of punching all of the things that she needed to. Sometimes I feel like the queens go so quickly you can't actually hear anything they're saying. Maybe it's just me being a granny.
Your mother's so old that her breast milk is powdered. You breastfeed like this.
But I understood everything she was saying. So yeah, definitely I can see why she got a yay. So I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, whose verse gets a slay-hee-hoo, which is the best verse, and you voted 57.4% for Kate Butch, probably unsurprisingly, the only Naomi second with 19.6, and then Godland 14.4. I definitely agree. I'd give the slay to Kate. I think she had really funny lyrics. They were very witty. They fit the theme. I understood everything she said, and I also think she did the choreography decently well as well. So definitely she gets the slay. Okay, so let's move on to the runway for this week, and the category was You're a Star, Baby. So a look with stars involved. First up was Zahira Zapanta. In the Have Your Say poll, she got mainly just okay, 54.8%. Then it was Yay with 26.7, but then not that far off with Nay, 18.5. I would probably put it around the just okay mark. It's fine. I think some of the details were pretty, but it is effectively a bodysuit with stuff on it. After that was Godland. Godland got 82.6% for Yay, and I think that's pretty much accurate. I loved this look. I got the Elton John reference straight away. The fact that it was just so ornate and there was so many details, like how many stars are on it, that's crazy. The level of detail is amazing, so definitely I agree with that. Next up is Mariah Balenciaga. In the Have Your Say poll, 53.7% for just okay. Then it was actually Nay with 25.6 and then Yay with 20.7. I would agree, I'd put it just okay towards Nay because it's pretty, but it is effectively a nice dress with a slightly ornate corset. After that, we had Sminty Drop. She got 63.7% for Yay and then 28.5% for just okay. I agree, I loved this. I think it's very editorial, something quite unusual because it's a little bit more on the androgynous side. I think it was Pete Burns inspired from the Dead or Alive band, you know, You Spin Me Right Round. I can definitely see the reference for that. I liked this a lot. Then we had Fontana. In the Have Your Say poll, 83% for Yay and then 14.8 for just okay. I agree, very pretty. I think obviously we've seen this sort of thing before, but the colors are lovely. I think all the details are really nice. I loved this piece on her head, which was, I guess, the Milky Way or the universe, or I don't know. I skipped physics class. Is it physics? Geography?
Dumbass.
Space class, whatever it is. So I liked this, so I would also give it a yay. After that was Kate Butch. This was very split, maybe the most split we've seen of all of them, because it was Yay and Just Okay both got 37%, and then Nay was 25.9%. Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure how to feel about this one. It's odd, and I can appreciate that she's doing something different, but I'm not sure about all of these sort of sticky out things. I'm not sure it's that amazing. So yeah, it would be somewhere in the middle for me. Then penultimately, it's the only Naomi. In the Have Your Say poll, you voted 42.6 for just okay, but then 41.5 for Yay, so pretty split evenly. But then 15.9 is still quite a lot for Nay. I was surprised. I quite liked this. Yes, it's simple, but it's very editorial and it's very different way it's sort of melted metal, I guess. It could have maybe been zhuzhed up a little bit, but I actually quite liked this. And finally, we had Serena Morena. In the Have Your Say poll, you gave 64.4% for Yay, then 23.7% for Just Okay, which surprised me. I definitely put it more on the Yay side. We have seen this silhouette quite a few times, but I do really like all the details. The color was lovely. The star behind her was really interesting because it was so big, and you know, I love a big flouncy thing. So yeah, I definitely liked this. So then I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, whose star runway, because I'm a star, baby, shine, sparkle, whose gets a slay, as in the best runway, and you voted Fontana with 34.4%, then Godland with 25.9%, and then in third place was Sminty Drop with 16.3%. I did really like Fontana's, but personally, I think I'd have to give it to Godland, just because if I think back in a year's time, will I remember Fontana's? Probably not, although it's lovely because it's a little bit more on the generic side, but although it's very nice. But Godland's, because it just stuck out because of the reference, the colors, I think that's the one I would give the slay to. So we find out the winner for this week is Kate Butch. I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, do you agree with the winner? Almost 3/4 of you, 73%, said yes, but then 27% said no, which is still a decent amount. So of that over a quarter of you who said no, I said, who do you think should have won instead? You said Godland with 47.9%, then the only Naomi with 32.9%, and then Fontana with 11%. I personally did think Kate deserved it just because I said I think her lyrics were the best. I think she understood the challenge the most, but I can see why Godland's performance was maybe funnier, but I would still give it to Kate. But then the bottom three, more interestingly, are Mariah, Serena, and Sminty. I asked you, did you agree with the bottom three? 77.4% said yes, and then 22.6% said no. So of that, just under a quarter of you said no. I said, who do you think should have been the bottom three? Mariah and Serena got joint first. Then it was actually Zahira that came in. So you would have put Mariah, Serena, and Zahira. So I guess you would have switched out Sminty for Zahira. I do maybe agree that Sminty shouldn't have been in the bottom. We'll get onto this in a minute, but I do think that she let her nerves get the better of her, but her verse was actually decent. So I think, although the performance was not great, the verse, I think, probably would have saved her in my eyes. So then Kate, as the winner, gets to use the Chippy Tea to save one of them from the bottom from lip syncing, and she chooses to save Mariah. I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, who would you have saved using the Chippy Tea? And you voted 54.8% for Sminty, then Mariah with 35.9%, then Serena with 9.3%. I agree, I would have saved Sminty just because she has the best track record up until now, so yeah, I think I would agree. I was quite gagged that Kate chose Mariah, but I also quite liked it because I'm a messy, messy queen, so I like a little bit of drama. So Sminty and Serena then have to lip sync to the song I Heard a Rumor by Bananarama, who are the guest judges this week. And we find out Serena is announced as the winner of the lip sync, which means, unfortunately, Sminty Drop is eliminated. I asked you in the Have Your Say poll who won the lip sync in your opinion, and a staggering 90% said Serena, and then only 10% for Sminty. And I agree, if you watch the lip sync back, Sminty did not know any of the lyrics, and she even sort of said that and was openly acknowledging it. And we all know if you don't know the lyrics, then curtains, I'm afraid. So I definitely agree that Sminty did not win the lip sync. And it kind of seemed like Sminty was counting on the fact that Kate was going to save her, and then she didn't, which is why she ended up going. So the final two questions. Question 10 was, based on what we've seen so far, who do you think will win the season? You said Godland with 70.4%, then Kate Butch with 28.1%, and then the next queen was Fontana, but she only got 0.7%. Then question 11 was, based on what we've seen so far, who do you want to win the season? Godland came out on top again with 43.3%, but obviously that is a lot less than who do you think will win. Then Kate Butch came in second, but again, it was a slightly lower percentage, 28.1%. Then, interestingly, the only Naomi came in third with 12.6%, but not that far behind was Fontana with 11.9%. Okay, so let's quickly go through some of the comments for this week. We'll start with my Patreon comments. So my Patreon Oxymoron said, I'm happy for Kate, she destroyed them all. I agree, I think Kate definitely deserved the win this week. My Patreon Max was talking about Sminty, which was a big conversation topic, saying, I think Sminty has no one to blame but herself. She didn't know the words and didn't perform the song. She could have sent Serena home, but she let her feelings affect her performance. I expected her to be rude to Kate on the way out, but still felt it was unnecessary. That's because Sminty flipped Kate off as she walked off, gave her the middle finger, and she was kind of annoyed about it. And, you know, she's talked about it since and said she was really angry at Kate. I agree, though. I do think it's not Kate's fault that Sminty went home. Sminty didn't know the words, so she only really has herself to blame. But I will say it gave us great TV, so obviously take it with a pinch of salt. And my Patreon Amy said, I know that everyone's going to be talking about Sminty, so let me instead talk about the only Naomi. I'm thrilled to see her moving through her initial self-doubt into a more confident place. I agree. I love Naomi. She is so much fun to watch, and I feel like she's really come into her own, and I think she's definitely one to watch. And Amy also mentioned that, obviously, as I said earlier, there was the bit where Sminty was getting upset that the queens were laughing at her when they were rehearsing on the main stage, and then later Naomi went to Sminty and actually apologized and said, I didn't mean for it to come across that way. So she was saying that was really nice of Naomi to kind of take ownership of that and apologize. And in the Have Your Say poll comments, as you can imagine, there were so many comments about the whole Sminty Kate Butch thing. People were saying Kate Butch made the wrong choice, #choices, Kate Butch winning girl group and Sminty getting eliminated, gasp. But then on the flip side, you did have people that said Sminty didn't know the words to the lip sync, so it is her own fault. And I kind of fall into that camp. I can see I would have saved Sminty if I were Kate, but I also liked the fact that she was being a little bit, evil, devilish, as I would also be if I was on the show, because you've got to do something. It would be boring if everyone was predictable. And, Sminty also gave us some iconic TV, so all around, I think they all did a good job in terms of giving us entertainment, which is the ultimate goal. Okay, so let's move on to episode 5. They did do a mini challenge for this episode, which has been quite rare for the last few episodes. They didn't really do any mini challenges. It was actually the reading challenge, and the only Naomi was the winner. And I agree. I thought she was really funny. I'd also like to give her props for the fact that she did that and was funny in a second language. That's really impressive. If I had to do a reading challenge in German, all I can say is it would not be wunderbar. So we find out the main challenge it's actually an acting challenge, which I'm always a little bit on the fence about scripted acting challenges, but this is actually a silent movie challenge, which I actually thought was quite an interesting twist. I don't think we've ever really seen this on Drag Race. And they have to split into 2 groups into 2 separate scenes. Okay, so let's go through the actual performances. The first group was doing a scene called Ain't Nothing Going On But the Rent. And I'll talk about them in order in which they appeared, because they obviously didn't speak. So I'll talk about first the only Naomi, who played Lil Shirl. In the Have Your Say poll, you said 70.6% for yay and then 25.5% for just okay. I would give it a yay. I thought she was funny. It was not necessarily the biggest of actual roles, although what I quite liked about this particular scene was you had the bit inside the house and everything, but then you also had the bit afterwards with the train and everything, which was actually really unexpected. And I quite liked that it was a pretty long scene, which had a good amount of different storylines to it. And I do think that Naomi did a good job with what she had. Next up was Mariah as Mother. In the Have Your Say poll, sort of similar, so 71.6% for yay, so still quite a lot, but a little bit more than Naomi. But then 26.5% for just okay. I personally did enjoy it. I thought she was giving face, which is something we know Mariah does very well, and she was really encapsulating that vibe of silent movie era, that everything has to be done through the face and sort of the sadness and the happiness. I quite liked that character development that she had. Then we had Zahira as Gay Daddy. In the Have Your Say poll, you said 62.7% for just okay, so the majority. And then between yay and nay, it was actually quite split. 19.6% for yay and then 17.6% for nay, so, not that different. I agree. I don't think this was the best performance. This is probably the weakest actually in this group. I think she didn't really give it enough of a characterization. It was just sort of very generic, but it was fine. And finally, we had Kate Butch as the evil landlord. In the Have Your Say poll, it was 88.2% for yay, so I think that's pretty clear to say you liked this, and then only 10.8% for just okay, and then 1% for nay. Just 1%. I agree. I think Kate very much did a really good job. I will say this was clearly the funniest role of pretty much all of the roles. If I had to choose a role, I would have wanted this one because it was just the easiest to make funny. But Kate did do a very good job, and she was making really interesting choices that I don't think other queens would have made. So I do agree with the yay in this instance. So the second scene was Up the Aisle. The first queen to perform was Serena, called the Beautiful Daughter. In the Have Your Say poll, it was kind of mixed. 54.4% for just okay, but then 28.4% for nay, and then only 17.2% for yay. I would agree. It was not the best. I think she didn't really give it any characterization. It just sort of was slightly one note. It was also kind of a boring character, I would say, but I think she could have made it funnier. Then penultimately, we had Fontana as Ugly Mother. In the Have Your Say poll, 46.6% for just okay, but then 35.3% for nay, and then only 18.1% for yay. I will agree with the judges that I think Fontana used the boobs too much. I mean, we all love using some boobies, but I think she relied on it a bit too much. I think if she'd just done it a couple of times, it would have been funny, but after a while, that was kind of her only gag that she had. So yeah, I would agree. It was fine, but not the best. And finally was Godland playing Creepy Villain. In the Have Your Say poll, it was 46.1% for yay, but then 41.2% for just okay, which I was slightly surprised at, and then 12.7% for nay. I would have definitely put it more towards the yay camp. I think this scene in general was not as good as the first scene in terms of just the actual storyline. I think it just wasn't that interesting. So the queens, I think, were at a disadvantage in this team. But I think Godlin was by far the best in the group. She also had the best character, I will say. But I think some of her choices and the mannerisms and the funny faces, at least she was trying to do something. 48.5% for Kate Butch, 24.5% for Mariah Balenciaga, and then third was the only Naomi with 16.2%. I would agree. I definitely think that Kate Butch was the funniest. I think she played the character really well. She did have the best character, but she also did a really good job embodying it and was probably the most believable, I would say, as well. Okay, so moving on to the runway. Now, I know before anyone says anything, I know they did the runway before the challenge, but to me that doesn't make any sense. So I have been a complete maverick, as has become my norm, and I have done it second because I think that makes more sense. But yes, before you start madly typing in the comments, I am aware that the runway came second, not first, and we all know how important it is to come first.
And
Oh, and the category is Shevil Movie Villains, so basically a villain from a movie. So first up is the only Naomi, and the inspiration is the Joker. In the Have Your Say poll, 73.5% for yay, so 3/4 pretty much. Then a quarter, 25.5 for just okay, and then only 1 for nay. I agree, loved this, definitely got the reference to the Joker straight away, loved the details, the makeup was amazing. Then we had Sahira Sapanta as Mystique/Scarlet Witch. In the Have Your Say poll, 70.6% for yay, 25% just okay, and then 4.4 for nay. I would agree, I did like it, I got the references to who they were supposed to be. I do think it looked cool, but maybe it could have been elevated a tiny bit. But I think, yeah, I probably would give it a yay, but more towards yay just okay. Then we had Mariah Balenciaga as the iceberg that hit the Titanic. In the Have Your Say poll, 41.2 for nay, so did not like it, 37.7 for just okay, and then 21.1 for yay. Yeah, this was personally not my favorite. I thought it was a really cool choice to choose a villain being the iceberg itself. I think that's quite a cool choice, but the outfit itself is quite simple and just not very flattering. I just did not like this. Then we had Kate Butch as Thanos. In the Have Your Say poll, majority 51% for just okay, 38.2% for yay, and then 10.8 for nay. I would agree. I think it was a kind of meh Thanos. She didn't have the glove thing with the jewels, the Infinity Stones, is it? I don't really watch Marvel, but I know who Thanos is. I've seen the movie a long time ago. I felt like this was Thanos, maybe, like not quite in his final form. Like, sort of, I don't know, there was something missing a little bit for me, so it wasn't my favorite, but it was fine. Then we had Serena Morena as Mr. Freeze. In the Have Your Say poll, 64.2% for yay, 27% for just okay, 8.8 for nay. I would agree. I personally would give this a yay. I quite liked it. I thought it was like lots of details, the blue obviously being cold and everything, brrr, shh. I quite liked all of the cold and everything like that, and the sparkler gun. Yeah, I quite liked it. Then penultimately, we have Godland. In the Have Your Say poll, 86.3% for yay, 13.2 for just okay, and then 0.5 for nay. I agree. This was the Grand High Witch from The Witches. I immediately got the reference. I was terrified of that film growing up. This was so intricate and amazing. It was so creepy but beautiful. The reveal was amazing. The fact that she had to have this molded, she posted about it on Instagram, had to have it sort of like a full mold. That is crazy. Such commitment. So definitely a yay. Then finally, we had Fontana as Tiffany Valentine from The Bride of Chucky. In the Have Your Say poll, 53.9% for yay, then 40.7 for just okay, 5.4 for nay. I'll be honest, I've never watched The Bride of Chucky. I know, don't come at me with pitchforks and knives. So I didn't necessarily get the reference. I thought it was fine. It's like a nice outfit. I can see, when she explained, I can see the references. But I thought it was pretty, and I liked the smoke and the theatre of it. So I did quite like it, but it wasn't necessarily groundbreaking. Let's just say it didn't set my pussy on fire.
Oh, Jesus. Gross.
So I asked you who's Shevil villain, and this is me giving my most villain face. Whose runway gets a slay, as in the best, and you voted Godland with 33.8%, Sahira Sapanta with 24%, and then the rest were pretty split, but third place was the only Naomi with 18.6%. I agree. I'd have to give it to Godland. It was just so out of the box, weird, crazy, but beautiful, really intricate, so interesting. The fact that she must put into so much effort for that. So definitely she deserves the slay. So we find out the winner for this week is Mariah Balenciaga. I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, do you agree with the winner? Interestingly, you did not agree. You said 57.4% for no, then a decent amount, 42.6% for yes. But of that over half who said no, I said, who do you think should have won instead? You said Kate Butch, 58.1%, then the only Naomi, 24.8%, and then the others were pretty split, but Godland was third with 11.1%. I definitely agree. I would have given it to Kate Butch, but because she won last week, I can see why production didn't want to give it to her because it would be a bit obvious, but I guess you shouldn't make that a reason not to give it to someone. I do think she deserved it. And even if it wasn't, I don't think Mariah was up there for me. It should have been someone else, like maybe Naomi or Godland, but certainly not Mariah. So we find out the bottom three are Fontana, Serena, and Zahira. I asked you, did you agree with the bottom three? Again, it was actually pretty split. So 60.3% for yes, so the majority, but then 39.7% for no. So pretty much 40%. So of that around 40% who did say no, I said, who do you think should have been the bottom three? You voted Fontana, Godland, and Serena. So you would have swapped out Zahira for Godland. I definitely don't agree with that. I actually thought Godland was pretty decent this week. I think I probably do agree with the bottom three. So Mariah, as the winner, gets to use the Chippy T to save someone from lip syncing, and she chooses to save Zahira Sapanta. I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, who would you have saved using the Chippy T? You said 52.5% for Zahira, then 31.9% for Fontana, and 15.7% for Serena. And I agree, I would have saved Zahira, which she did, because I think Zahira was the least bad out of the three of them in the challenge. So Fontana and Serena then lip sync to Axel F by Crazy Frog, and we find out Fontana is announced as the winner, is therefore safe, so unfortunately Serena Morena is eliminated. I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, who do you think won the lip sync in your opinion? You said 81.4% for Fontana and then only 18.6% for Serena. I loved the fact that this was the weirdest lip sync we've had in a very long time. It was crazy. There are hardly any words. It's just so dumb. I actually really enjoyed the fact that it was just so wacky. I do agree, though, that I think Fontana did a better job than Serena. But I will say I think Serena put up a decent fight. So the final two questions. Question 9, based on what we've seen so far, who do you think will win the season? And no surprises, it's still Godland number 1 with 64.2%, then Kate Butch with 32.4%, and then the others hardly got any votes. Mariah only got 2%. So at the moment, it seems like a two-horse race between Godland and Kate Butch. But then for question 10, it's a lot more split, which is who do you want to win the season? Interestingly, Godland still comes out on top, but only just 36.8% compared to Kate Butch with 29.4%. But then you also have, for example, the only Naomi, who still got a decent portion of 16.2%. So moving on to my comments, we'll talk about my Patreon comments first. My Patreon Oxymoron said, the lip sync moment when Serena put down the piece of paper and then just lip sync ding ding. I thought that was so funny because obviously that's pretty much the only lyric in the song. So the fact that she had this paper almost like I'm remembering the lyrics and then it's just ding ding, I actually thought that was really funny. My Patreon Amy said, overall, I would call this a pretty straightforward episode. There was not that little riggery, if any, and I do think Kate Butch did the best. I agree. I think this one was probably... I don't think Mariah should have won, but other than that, I think it was pretty fair. My Patreon Jessica made a good point of saying, I think that having a silent movie challenge and then also a lip sync song that has basically no lyrics is good for an international season for the queens that don't speak English as a first language. And I agree. I also thought that watching, I quite liked that they were doing that. And it also was just different. There's been literally a million seasons of Drag Race at this point. So it does take a lot to kind of make us go, oh, that's weird. And I think they achieved that. My Patreon Max said, another great week on UK versus the World. I actually agree. I think it's almost like better than season 18 because it's at least a bit more gaggy and sort of weird in a way. And a great original main challenge. Very cool runway. Possibly the most unhinged Drag Race lip sync in history. And I'm still gagged over Serena's Mr. Freeze look. My Patreon Debs mentioned something interesting saying, am I imagining it or is Rue stopped calling Fontana Fontuna since she had her dance/collapse in the other episode? I think he's been calling her Hannah Fontana. I think it's just more that, you know, Rue can't even remember her own name at this point. So I feel like she's just kind of going with whatever she remembers. And my Patreon Patty basically said, it might sound a bit harsh, but I would not have given Mariah the win this week because her challenge was good, but her runway was basic. I would agree. I think she was good in the challenge, but her runway was too basic. And even in the challenge, I think she was good, but not the best. So I don't think this is actually that harsh. I think that's quite fair. But I can see why, from a production point of view, they did it, because they didn't want to give Godland or Kate another win, because otherwise it kind of makes it a bit boring if all the same queens are winning every time. So I think they did it for that reason. And in the Have Your Say poll comments, so many of them were about that lip sync, saying, what the F was that lip sync? It was so cringe. So some people didn't like it. I personally did. Someone said, love the lip sync song, don't love the lip sync. I think the queens did a decent job with what they could, because what else are you going to do to the crazy frog? It certainly brought back memories, because that song came out when I was, you know, a child, because I'm old.
Picture it. Sicily, 1912.
And I remember listening to that song, and I remember we had to do a presentation in science class, and we had to do a PowerPoint presentation, and then we had to choose music to go in the background, and this was the music we had, because at the time that was like the cool song that we all had, like ringtones and stuff. So it did bring back memories from, you know, young little Matt. Not that I'm not young now.
Delusion.
Someone said, I think doing a silent movie was a fun twist on an acting challenge, and the lip sync was hilarious. So I think I would agree. I quite liked that it was unhinged, weird, and a bit different. But there was also a few comments saying that they thought the judging was bad, saying, I love the cast, but the judging is bad. When will they change the American judges to UK judges? So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Do you think that on an international/UK season, RuPaul and Michelle shouldn't be the judges? Or do you think that because it's those two, it brings in an international audience because they have name recognition? Okay, so we're now going to move on to a little bit of unrelated drama to do with Monét X Change calling out a well-known designer for allegedly scamming her. Mone posted a video on her YouTube channel in mid-February 2026 where she called out a designer named Domino Couture. For those who may not know, Domino Couture is a New York-based Emmy award-winning costume designer who is known for making very elaborate and creative outfits. He's worked with big celebrities including Beyonce and Lady Gaga, and he's also worked with a lot of drag race queens, such as Bob the Drag Queen, Bianca Del Rio, and Peppermint. And so Domino is quite well known within the drag race world because he's made outfits for many queens. One of those queens is Mone, who said that Domino has been one of her go-to designers for over a decade, and he made several of her runway looks, including her All-Star 7 promo look. So in terms of what happened, Mone posted this video where she started by saying that Domino is genuinely one of the most talented designers she's ever worked with, which is why she kept going back to him for years. However, she also said that working with him has always been stressful because he often delivers outfits very late, and she gave a few examples. So for All Stars 4, she said Domino was at her apartment sewing costumes until 4:45 a.m. the morning of her 5 a.m. flight to LA, and her African Eleganza finale look was unfinished. So Mone said that Trinity the Tuck had to help her complete the outfit in the workroom. And because Domino was always late, Mone started lying to Domino about when she needed the outfits for, so she would deliberately say the deadline was, for example, a week before it actually was, because she knew he would still be late. But then, for a separate commercial shoot for Paramount, Mone told Domino the deadline was a certain date, but Domino presumably did not believe her, so Domino contacted the production company directly behind Monet's back to find out when it was actually shooting, and he ignored the deadline that Mone had actually given him, and he apparently showed up to set with the costume on the day that the actual commercial was filming, which Mone said was extremely stressful because she wasn't even sure she was going to have something to wear. Then, for her All-Star 7 promo look, which Domino made in just 2 days, she received a bill for $8,000, and this was just for construction labor because Mone had already paid for the materials, and someone else had even helped Domino make the outfit. And although Mone said that was crazy expensive, she did pay him because she said it was her fault for not asking him up front how much it would be. But despite all of this, Mone continued working with Domino because he was so good. Then, in August last year, Mone decided to work with Domino again. She wanted him to make a Halloween outfit and thought it would be less pressure because it was for her own personal use, and she reached out to him 3 months before she needed it on August the 2nd, with the deadline being October 31st. She wanted a specific look, which was an X-Men inspired costume, and he was excited and said it was going to be a, quote, massive build. He originally quoted $9,000. Mone said she couldn't justify that for a personal project, so they negotiated down to $5,000, and they cut out some elements like LED lighting to make it cheaper. So Domino asked for a $2,500 upfront deposit to purchase materials and get started, so Mone paid the deposit on September the 12th. Then, between September 14th and October 25th, Mone gave a timeline of the events, but a quick summary is they arranged fittings for the outfit in New York, but then it never actually happened. Domino frequently did not reply back to her, and it sounds like he may not have even ordered the materials. Halloween then came and went, and Mone never heard from him and never got the costume. On November the 3rd, Mone sent a question mark text which showed as delivered, but it was not read, so she suspected that Domino had blocked her. Mone then borrowed her partner's phone and called Domino's number, and he picked up within 2 rings. She said it was her, and he apparently said he was sorry and time got away from him and he'd been dealing with various things. Mone told him he either needs to finish the costume and she'd pay the remaining $2,500, or he needs to refund her deposit. And he promised he would call or text the following week to work something out, but he never did. Mone tried contacting him multiple times in the following months, but then heard nothing. As a final attempt before filming this expose video, she sent him a long text on February the 4th, saying that she wasn't looking for a confrontation and genuinely wanted to resolve the situation. She made it clear how much she valued their decade-long partnership, but she said he had hurt her personally, and the message showed as delivered but not read, and she received no reply. So at the time of filming the video, which was February 2026, Mone had gone 7 months without a finished costume, no refund, and pretty much no contact from Domino. Mone also said that to her knowledge, Domino was still actively making outfits for other people during this period. Mone finished by saying that she's not trying to ruin anyone's reputation, but she feels like she's exhausted all other options, and she's still out of pocket by $2,500, so this video was her last resort. She also hinted that this is a first video in a new series, with at least one more expose video planned, which involves a separate company, which she said has owed her $2,700 for 2.5 years. After this video came out, I went to Domino's Instagram to see if he had made any kind of response to Mone's expose video. I saw that in the comments on his most recent posts, people had commented saying he needs to pay Mone back and that he had scammed her. I then checked back a week or so later, and it looks like he has now switched off comments on his posts, and I think several of his posts have also been removed/hidden. And from what I can see, Domino does not seem to have made any kind of public response to Mone's video. So I just thought this was interesting because although we've heard many times in the past that queens have had issues with designers, it's rare for a queen to actively call out a designer by name and expose them, especially when they are a well-known designer like Domino Couture. So we'll have to wait and see if any more ever comes of this situation. But as I always say in my videos, please do not get involved or send hate to anyone, and just watch this type of content responsibly. So there you go, there was the Have Your Say video for UK vs the World Season 3, Episodes 4 and 5. Let me know what you think of UK vs the World so far, and who do you think will ultimately snatch the crown? If you'd like to get your comments featured in my Have Your Say videos, early access to my videos, priority when responding to comments, as well as many other benefits, please check out my Patreon. It's a quick and cheap way to support the channel, and it does make a massive difference, and I'll link to my Patreon in the description. And I'd also also like to say thank you so much to my amazing Patreon members. Honestly, you are all incredible. I pinched myself so many times thinking how amazing I am to have this great group such as yourself supporting me. So honestly, thank you so much. Please make sure you like and comment on this video to boost it in the algorithm and promote it to more people. And make sure you smash that subscribe button. It really is important and it helps boost the channel. So please make sure you subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll join me in the future for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets, and drama. Thank you so much. Bye.